Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell, everyone. REvil, a ransomware group operating out of Russia, is taking credit for what experts say is the largest cyber attack on record. The recent ransomware attack on global software vendor Kaseya affected over 12 countries and up to 1,500 businesses. The hacker group is demanding $70 million in Bitcoin for a decryptor tool to restore the business's data. A group tied to REvil was responsible for the Colonial Pipeline hack in May and orchestrated the JBS ransomware attack over Memorial Day weekend. Here to discuss is Rick Jordan, who is the founder and CEO of Reach Out Technology. Rick, thanks for joining us this morning. Help us break this down and the significance of this ransomware attack, and is there a possibility that this $70 million might actually be paid?
Yeah, thanks for having me. The sophistication of this attack has not been seen before, except by the likes of SolarWinds, when SolarWinds was hacked just a little while ago. Kaseya and SolarWinds are the same types of software, meaning that managed service providers, cybersecurity service providers, use software like Kaseya to manage their customers and enforce security policies. So think of it like a pyramid. If Kaseya is at the top and the ransomware is injected there, now it filters down to the middle tier, which is the MSPs, the managed service providers, which then goes down to these 1,500 businesses that we know have been now hit worldwide. So it was a great point, a great attack vector to hit the top, because they knew that it was going to be like a supply chain delivery. That's what the term is for this, to filter all the way down to these businesses. And to your point on the 70 million, I saw some tweets that they've reduced this. They're almost negotiating now down to 50 million. And that's for a universal decryptor, which means this will unlock all of these businesses. Wow. So REvil is taking two approaches. They're going one side saying we're going to try to get 70 million from everybody. The other side is they're still negotiating individually with each of these 1,500 businesses to pick off maybe anywhere from $50,000 to $5 million each.
Okay, and so if I can make this personal for companies first and foremost, because clearly just thinking about and having to negotiate some of the ransom payments at this point in time, can you be a company in this era without having a cybersecurity crisis response plan in place at this point in time? And what would you recommend in those instances should a company face a situation like this?
Sure. This attack was a little different than most ransomware, and so this can't really be used as the templates. Okay. But most ransomware, as far as what to do after the fact, that's an amazing point, because everyone talks about prevention. But one thing I always educate about is you have to have the response plan in place, because you will be breached at some point. No matter how good your service provider is, no matter how good your protection is, Kaseya has amazing protection. And look, they were breached. It happens, and their response has been incredible because they had the plan in place. But these middle tier managed service providers and these small businesses, like even like a grocery store chain in Sweden, I was reading 800 stores, the response plan was not what it should have been. The best thing to have, and I know this is going back 30 years, but you have to have the best possible backup that exists, because typical ransomware attacks, they've already had what we call a foothold in this industry on your systems for sometimes months at a time before they actually flip the switch to turn on the ransomware. So you have to have an amazing backup technology that goes back at least a year to be able to restore that data and get you back functioning again, so you don't have to pay that ransom.
The FBI believes that REvil, or REvil, as I believe you mentioned, was behind the ransomware attack last month on global meat processing giant JBS. You know, how does the style of attack differ in these cases, as you've been breaking down?
Sure, those they pick off one by one, these larger corporations, but now they're getting more sophisticated. So instead of doing like a spear type ransomware attack, this is casting a broad net. They found someone like Kaseya, took the template from the SolarWinds attack so that they can infect thousands with just one swoop. It was a very good play from a strategy perspective versus someone like JBS. But JBS, they're in the meatpacking industry. It's production, it's food, similar to like manufacturing. The sad part about those systems is that they're typically running really, really outdated computers to run the factory machinery. That's the struggle that JBS had. That's the struggle that a lot of manufacturing firms have across the country and across the world, is these machines they use are just running outdated software, which leaves the gates wide open. It's a lot easier to dive into them than it is somebody like Kaseya.
And Rick, while we have you, last month President Biden met with Russian President Vladimir Putin and discussed and pressured the Russian leader to control cyber criminal operations within his borders, within his country. Do you anticipate that the U.S. could have a response in this instance?
If I were to give my opinion on this, it's a definition of what critical infrastructure is. And where I feel that the president's meeting with Putin did not go far enough is he gave him a list of saying these are off limits. But why can't we just say don't attack us at all? There's nothing that you can go after. That's where I feel this is, because you look at the old days of ground warfare. This is cyber warfare now.
Right.
This is what this nation has to worry about now, rather than nuclear or other types of warfare that exist. This is the most prominent type of warfare. So we need to have a strong position and say, you know what? There's nothing that's okay when it comes to cyber attacks.
Right. Data, an extremely powerful currency of its own. And so we're seeing this play out, especially in the cybersecurity front, with some of these increasing stories that we've been discussing. Rick Jordan, founder and CEO of Reach Out Technology. Thanks so much for joining us today with the expert breakdown and analysis.